and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, and welcome to this video topic with me about ascending relationships and working with the white creation pillar within our ascending relationships. It is an honor and pleasure to speak to you today from my renewed sacred space. As you can see, I got this new addition for my sacred space here with my Seraphim Angelic Altar space with the beautiful 6 paintings of the angelic wings that I created myself. You can see the board is here with me again in my new Royal Queen chair, which is perfect for today's topic. Brace yourself because there's going to be a lot of information again shared. And again, everything that I share comes from my personal experience as well as what Spirit shows me in terms of what's needed for us to always grow and evolve to the next stage. So those of you who really feel called and dedicated, devoted to your self-mastery, you will definitely feel resonance with this, what I will share about relationships today. So the main thing today is the ascending relationships within the white creation pillar and how to use the white creation pillar for us to move to the next level. So this means working with the white light, not just within ourselves, but also when we start to relate with others in a new way. So we all knew many relationships and we always go through many relationships, but because of our stages of evolution that are changing, certain relationships are going to show us what needs to change, because it's not even that the change is needed. It's just almost like, the snakes shed their skin naturally. It's not because it's needed, but because the change is a natural state of evolution of all life in creation. So this isn't necessarily about what we used to know as karmic relationships, soulmate, even what we call twin souls. Whatever it is about, it's always about our own personal evolution and as we grow into our ascending light. So the more that we ascend, the more we start to work with the white ascension core pillar. This means that there will be certain relationships coming in our reality that we will no longer have the ability to kind of like, as these relationships, sometimes we call them the trigger relationships or the special relationships. And I talked about this before, that the term special can mean and bring a lot of confusion to us. So these triggers are special relationships in terms of moving us deeper into our own ascension so that we can evolve. And these relationships are evolutionary relationships. And Spirit's giving me this beautiful term that we can call them the preparatory inhibitors. So, to inhibit something, it means that sometimes there will be a distraction or something that keeps us away from something. So it's kind of like holding us down. So these are not equal to anything else prior to what we have known and experienced before. But it's not about the relationship would be so special, but it's because we are evolving in our ascension. So there needs to be this surrendering into the understanding that within certain relationships, when we get to a certain level, there will be conflict and confusion because of the veils we still might be holding. And a lot of the veils come through obsession. So obsessing not just with a certain person, but maybe the idea we have about the person or relationship in our lives, but also the concepts. And these concepts are those that we're outgrowing and we need to replace them with new ones. And we cannot do that before we truly surrender that into stepping into our white creation pillar. So these conflicts and confusions are always because of the veils we're having. And I really would recommend here, if you are an enthusiastic, learner about more in terms of relationships and how we go through many ego stages that we're dissolving, I recommend you to watch the video from Bart and Jody Twin Flames. They have a Bart and Jody Twin Flame TV channel on YouTube, and they have, amongst many different free seminars they have one about the veils. So dissolving the veils to recognize and remember our twin soul. And this is a beautiful video because it explains that we cannot recognize that which is true within the true nature of truth, which is just as it is, as long as we still hold those veils. So the veils, how do we dissolve them? It's going to be presented to you in this video. But first and foremost, every one of you will come to a stage in your life when you will have a certain relationship, but you just can't figure it out. You just can't quite put a, like a certain definition on it. You can't put a label on it. You've maybe tried, and you have written down things that don't work here. Like, for example, they cannot be approached via these means. This relationship cannot be approached this way because it doesn't leave our head. That means that something that's still in reflection and in pondering. But why it doesn't leave us is because the approach is not right. So maybe you've been trying to access this and gain knowledge and understanding of this relationship via astrology. You've been doing readings or psychic information or channeling, which just brought you further away from the true core nature of yourself and your soul. Maybe you've been asking your guides and angels. You've been trying to get answers, but nothing came. And cutting the cords, that is always the something that is still a part of our old. In the old, we didn't have, a lot of people didn't have enough understanding, so they had to cut certain ties so they could evolve to the degree that they could deal with that through love. So in love, and true unity is the only aspect of us which is always whole. There within unity, our soul is always whole in divine love. So when we have this opposing and conflicting guidance, there's something that needs to come into resolution. And how do we do that? So sometimes it will feel this is a very challenging relationship, even though it might not be at all. But it's something within us that wants to grow and evolve. And maybe that person is a certain oppositionary force in terms of being in a reality for a reason, will give us and offer us a service that way. I know a lot of people, especially channelers, talk about these things like, if someone's bad for you and toxic, let it go, just cut the cords, cut the person out of your life. Which again, for those of you evolving into your self-mastery, you will be in a little slightly different understanding here, because everything that will be outside of you will be a projection of something that wants to grow and evolve within you. This will not be the same as just random mirroring, because a lot of people say, well, that person is your mirror, why would you create them? It's just, what you have, they have, and they're just showing you the opposite. Or that sameness is not always the case. Those of you really stepping up in your self-mastery, this will go deeper than just that. It won't just be so black and white. You have to learn to see the shades of your evolution. And the only reason why these relationships feel so challenging is because we need to let go of the old concepts and move into the new. So you've been trying to cut the cords and try different modalities or special techniques, but if something is still working in your mind, you can't let it go. It means that it's not that you can't let go the person or what they offered you or what they had to share with you, or that you are not outgrowing it. But it's because your soul shows you how we are dealing with the relationships, how we approach them needs to change, because we're moving into the wide light of unity. Those of you who are stepping first as Ascension pioneers in this journey of self-mastery, you're going to do this work first. So this person who feels like in conflict with you, or you can't let it go, or you've tried to understand it, you've tried all these techniques from astrology, psychics, readings, intuitive assessing, and asking your angels, guides, but there always feels like there's more. You might get answers, but there will be just partial answers, or something you've tried as a previous understanding or the previous techniques that worked so far, but all of a sudden you get to a certain relationship that doesn't work. A lot of people say, now this must be my twin flame, or this must be the person that's meant to be with me, because it's so different than what I used to know before. No, not necessarily. Maybe, but not necessarily, because what's changing is you, is your consciousness through your ensoulment is growing and evolving, and you're seeing things in a more subtle manner that maybe before you haven't been able to recognize and see with such depth. So we're being offered sometimes with these challenging, we perceive them as challenging relationships, this new approach. But we need to do the inner work. So how will we know that the work is done? It's because when we master a new level, our soul will do like, okay, a checking point. And we will be shown that we've moved to the next level and stage of our evolution. But trying to work out these relationships with either trying to understand them as karmic, or as soulmates, or someone bringing you lessons, or it's possibly your twin flame, because a certain dynamic might feel this way. When you truly are in your path of self-mastery, you will witness everything as which stage of evolution are you within. So each relationship will bring you the mirror of that stage of evolution where you're currently presently at. That's it. So a lot of times it will reveal you the veils you need to go through, or your soul wants you to go through. And releasing those veils will first have to come with the pure assessment of what is, not what we want it to be, not what our ego, because of it has and holds on to these old concepts, might want, but definitely trying to come to this clarity and resolution, because when the guidance we receive is no longer conflicting or opposing, everything that's conflicting comes still a bit of that attachment to something our ego might develop as a certain means, which is not necessarily wrong. You know, everything serves us on the level where we're currently residing in our consciousness, but we're so much expanding in our awareness, and it's happening really fast for many of you. And that's why it might seem like, but wait a minute, this just worked, or I could apply this knowledge and understanding, or an article I read online, someone has written about, for example, the nature of twin flames or how they're coming together. But because we're evolving so fast, our concepts are being constantly changed and overridden by something else. So this blank slate needs to occur right now, because how we view relationships and why we have a certain dynamic that's being reflected to us, it's because our soul wants to show us new ways and how to work with the white light and unity consciousness, how to approach our relationships within the greater and greater perspectives unfolding. You know, the more perspectives you see, the more highest picture, you know, the more of these reflections you might see, the more in peace you will be, because you will witness all this on a multidimensional level, not just what your current brainwave one thought form might consider. And then another one goes in another direction, and there you have two opposing realities. You know, the Two of Swords, the archetype in tarot, which a lot of times talks about a confusion and unwillingness to decide and know the difference between right and wrong. You know, not right and wrong, because in terms of what we're choosing is always in alignment with what we need to and want to experience as a soul agreement, but in what is really right for us as we are willing to see nothing but the truth. And as I watched this video from Bart and Jody, they explained a lot of the concepts we have around the projections we have onto others. And a lot of these projections come from our core desire to be unified. They call it to be with our twin flame. I call it to be unified within, masculine, feminine essence as one. I call this the radiant luminescence, the illumined twin soul presence within us. And as we experience this outside of us, this is the desire for that divine partnership. But what comes out of it as a distortion of ego become all these projections. So what is the difference between the projection versus desire? Desire is always that core element. It comes from the freedom of your soul. Your soul knows your authentic desire. And this desire is pure. It comes from your soul's purity and the uniqueness of your divine blueprint that you've designed for yourself, that is completely in alignment with the purity of your soul. But then there are certain distractions and distortions that come from either outside belief systems, or, you know, the ego that was developed through stages of evolution in our human consciousness. So as we're ascending and evolving in our new homo luminous self and our divine new human self, we're bridging the gaps. We're seeing the missing links. And that's why working with the white light is so important, because it will unify all of these distortions, not just to unveil, but we also want the unification process to occur. Because it's not that the ego perceptions are necessarily wrong. It's just that we were once maybe at a certain stage of our evolution, but now we're expanding, and this is no longer perceived as such. So they also talked a lot about obsession. You know, when people meet a certain individual and they obsess about it, even though they might not return love to them, and they might not have the same view of the relationships that you might have, or a person that's the one obsessing over someone or something. It might also be a situation, but this video is specifically about a relationship, so I will talk about us dealing with another. And what this means is that a lot of times this will be because of those projections. The core desire is unique. It is pure, but the distortions around it, these layers around that core essence, make it that way. So the obsession does not come when we just really know our desire, because when we do, we trust it in its pure essence. So we don't try to kind of compensate it with something else or distort it into something slightly modified, not totally of that core essence, but a little different, which will do. And we make those compromises in relationships, you know, and a lot of times what we do, we believe that unconditional love is, I will love someone so much that they will eventually learn to love me back. That again is a part of obsession. Why? It is imbalanced, because what you do is, Let's say someone is not yet fully heart-centered or fully open, so they might feel a little colder than you are. They're not returning, or they're not balancing balance, giving that love in return. So it's not flowing in a beautiful infinity motion, kind of energy dynamics between the two open, cosmically activated hearts in unity consciousness. What you do at that point is you try to compensate their lack of love with your too much overflowing of love. So when that happens, is this an equalized process which makes you feel responsible for the love quotient they might have and currently embody. What you do is you don't allow them to come into their own self-mastery. You don't allow them to come into their own space of love, because love is a sacred space of meeting, reunion, that already gives an impression of being reunited, each unity already whole within itself, coming and reuniting together as well, creating the third energetic aspect in divine triangulation. But when we want to overcompensate, or when someone is being lazy and not doing their work, there will be always this unequal imbalance, which Spirit gave me a word about this harmony, which is dissonance. So there will always be energetic dissonance, which is there to show us what's still not within unification. So one thing is to dissolve the veils and see those projections and notice them, even if it will be, even if it is, pardon me, your twin flame, how you might call it, it's still not going to work within those false projections. But when the love is true, true love does not need strategizing, those tactic games. When you're trying to strategize through your mind, not being real and authentic with someone. I knew people who did that to me, and it really felt shitty. That's how we'll call it, because you're coming and approaching all pure-hearted, and you're welcoming, you're always welcoming, and they will have a bit of strategizing with you, and you will feel it. But when that part of you is still not fully unified, will still want to act from trying to overcompensate for what they are lacking, you're not going to act from your authentic self, which will cause entanglements. It will cause those hooks that I've been talking about in one of the previous videos on Ascension and hooks. So try to uncover those hooks. When you are overcompensating that love for someone and you want to love them as much, like, oh, I love them so much it hurts. And then it kind of, the separation happens, and then it hurts even more, because that's what you were doing. You were loving until it hurts. Love is not supposed to hurt. Love, true love, is loving it for the sake of love, not pain or hurt. So when we see and witness that within ourselves, and there's pain, and I've met people who've been saying, my twin, or whatever they perceive that person for in their own reality, they said, oh, they don't notice me, or they're having another life, they're not seeing me, or they're not forgiving me, whatever they're doing. I'm going to love them so much, I'm going to only focus on them. So one day maybe they wake up and they see and realize it's basically giving them the laziness. You're basically in a way inhibiting, well, you're prohibiting what they're inhibiting for you, if you know what I mean. So you know how I am with these English terms, not best, but I just want to say that we need to be balanced. We need to learn to love through that dynamics of the infinity symbol, which is always in love. So true love does not strategize. It does not play games. It doesn't have those dramas. It doesn't go around the corner saying, I'm going to modify something so maybe in the end it comes the best result for me. If it's not that already on its own, then how will you will it so for another? It's basically what we were failing at in terms of our soul exams for always and forever. And it doesn't work this way anymore. So when you start to walk that path of self-mastery and unification within you, your own mastery, then you will see your soul will want to guide you otherwise. But the difference between projection and desire is that the desire is pure. Desires are not wrong. The desire is showing you where your soul wants to expand. And that core desire is what it is. It's something you cannot change. It's something you can try to mold, and you with that clay, you try to play, but it won't change. That's the core desire within you. It always stays the same. A projection is when part of you that's not fully unified yet. People call it ego or separation. I just call it the still distorted lack of unity, of unification within us, which creates that separateness feeling and the actual physical experience as well as a consequence of that. So when that is still in play, then that part will play these dynamics. It will see these projections. But I want to give you this example. Let's say you're with someone and they don't resonate with that core desire you have. But a part of you says, it's okay. I can learn to work around it. and you create these compromises for yourself. And a part of you says, maybe I will only be with them to that degree, and to wait until I wait for someone who will be that core desire match in my physicality when I'm developing within myself. But the thing is that when that core desire within you is stronger and stronger, because there's a magnetic pull towards that which is true for you, it's that natural truth that you don't have to modify or strategize. And when the part of you compromises and says, look, I'll try to work my way around it, and I will go and I'll start projecting a bit, and then you will start projecting. But that projection is not wrong. People say, oh, don't project to another person. That projection shows you the reflection of that desire, which still grows and blooms within you, but because you're not getting it returned on the outside in that mirror, which is that energetic mirror, which is not a full match, it still shows you what it's the lack of thereof. But that shows you that for a reason, so that you start to work with that energy. For example, when we meet a person, when we first meet someone and we fall in love, or we like something about them, or we get enthusiastic about them, that person is a reflection of something that either we are starting to develop more, or wants to blossom within us more, and instead of projecting it towards them, but for that reason projection is not wrong, because it shows us, if we know how to work with it in awareness, then projection is just a system, how our consciousness shows us things on the outside, so we can recognize them as a conscious witness. If we don't see the projections, then it will move further into the egoic consciousness of even deeper separation and obsession, and huge distortions, that are no longer true. They're falsified. And it's kind of hard sometimes to get then out of those falsified illusions that we've created, that almost has its own entity, because it gets so dense. It will feel it like you, the other person in a relationship, and an entity in between you two. And that entity will start to have almost like its liquid density, and it will get denser and denser, because you're continuously putting that wave thought form, and it starts to get as real, because our thoughts create, and it gets so real. But you're accessing the relationship with that person through that densey, foggy, cloudy entity, instead of the true nature of our white unified light field, which is the technique, which is not even a technique, it's a natural state. I'll show you here at the end of the video. So it's very important for us to know the difference, that when the core desire is still there, even though a part of you says, I'm just going to have a partial relationship or partial fulfillment of that desire with that either partner you're choosing, or a friend, or a companion you want to create something with, when there's still going to be that longing, it's almost like you're trying to lie to yourself a little bit, because you're saying, it's okay to receive just this much, and you're continuously going to do that, and your soul is going to create even more of that lack and show you even more, because it will tell you, stop fooling yourself, see what's real. Are you getting that love mirror and complete reflection on the outside that you have within you and you know how to express, or is there something within you that went into the extreme of projecting it? And then notice the projection. So what's the difference is that core desire does not need to be compromised. It no longer even needs to be, you don't even need to speak it out that much. It's just so natural. Like you, when you're with yourself, when you're being yourself, it's natural. And to be with someone who's your divine equal should also feel and be natural. I'm not saying it's going to be perfect from the start. We will have to have this pure communication, and we will do the spiritual work here. But it will be a continuous work of that unveiling and stepping even deeper into that core desire. But there's going to be this mismatch. And with this mismatch that's come from our filtered ego, we will create a relationship that will continuously showing what we are still projecting. But that projection will show us, look, there's still desire there. So if there's something more and there's not completely a yes, then it's a no. So what that means is we're going to have to get very deep, very real with ourselves, and face the true nature of our being. So on this note, I'm going to start talking about how to do that work with the white unity light. But before I start, I want to read you something, beautiful words of wisdom from something I got recently, Rumi Oracle. It's a beautiful divine tool. And I like to pull one card in the morning to have just a bit of time for myself when I just delve very deep into that core essence. And the card looks like this. that I'm going to read you from, and it's called The Dissolving Light. And this is something that's really going to be furthering topic of this video. So the dissolving light, I don't know if you can see it, but it shows this person here, the smallest version of ourselves, and then it's get bigger, bigger, bigger until we're nothing but all-consuming light of spirit, golden white light. And I'm going to read you from this booklet because it's so beautiful to witness the raw power and yet the gentleness of the truth within love. Okay, here we go. There is a light so intense, so powerful, that nothing other than itself, its own truth, can exist in its presence. It is the sacred seed, the star of your being, lit up from within. It is the light that never goes out. It is the light that is so powerful it is beyond duality of light and dark, cannot ever be extinguished or diminished, and quite simply beyond all logic, just is. Certainly no lie or deception, no boundary or defense can remain intact in its presence. The blazing divinity of this light sears through any pretense, annihilates illusions, and takes us into stark experience of divine truth. It is gentleness, and yet it cannot be overcome. It is enduring power, and yet it is tender. Though you seek the divine and even know it as love, you also know that it is fierce, wild, inexplicable, and demanding beyond all measure. It wants you completely and utterly, without condition. There will be times in your life, such as now, when there is something not worthy of you that must be released. This is a falsehood, a lie or deception of some sort that you have come to believe about yourself, your life, or perhaps even another. You may know what that deception is, or it may be about to be unveiled. It is not a cause for fear or concern, but for celebration. An illusion has or soon will be released, and you shall become freer, free in a way that only truth can provide. So truth knows its source always, ultimately, and when we are being unconditional without expecting this from another, we're going to see that more and more we will match that mirror on the outside of the other, the counterpart in unconditionality on without as well, because as within, so without, as above, so below, and we're becoming that beautiful perfected cross of that truth. So I'm going to show you, and I will guide you into this technique in my upcoming course, Multidimensional Ascension. I will do exercises. As each courses that I have, there's always Ascension exercises provided, because I would like to go through this process very thoroughly, but in this video I'm just going to talk about why this is important. So how to move from speaking and communing and conversing with another only through our egos is to move ourselves up into the column of the white light, because you know, when you meet people, they're going to tell you many things, and they will say many things. They will overpromise. They will say things that they don't really mean, or there will be lots of falsehoods still, and it's going to continuously to come up, especially in this last unveiling year of the 9 vibration. So there's going to be much coming out, and for us to stay really in the truth of that presence of what's really within unity, we're going to have to converse higher self to higher self. That doesn't mean necessarily that you will be aware of why the person is this way as they are in their physical current embodiment, but you will see things from the higher perspective of both of your higher selves. And because you will have that higher perception, you will have less a chance to go into extremes such as projections, obsessions, falsehoods, and all those untruths. So you will unveil and then also unify. Unveiling, unifying, that's what we're aiming for in our ascension. So what happens here is, what Spirit showed me just yesterday, meditating before my bedtime, the white mothering spiral, we're not using it enough because it is the source of all. It creates all. It already is all. So when we know how to move into that white spiraling light of the mother, or the mother father flame, because you see, I've drew it like spiral is the mother essence, the rays that go and permeate everything outwards is that father light. Together we are created, we are here as divine children. So the alpha and omega, the all-permeating Om, what I've drew here, witness yourself But this is because it's the topic is about relationships. This is doing this for you and another. If you have one of those inhibitors, unexplainable relationships, someone you obsess about, someone you feel maybe they obsess about you, it doesn't matter. You know, I have lots of people who obsess about me and they write to me emails that I don't even give them response to because it's clearly lack of integrity, and these people have stepped over the boundaries of my personal sacred space because they continuously spam me with their projections and their desires of the lower nature. They're not getting response from me because these people are out of that boundary. They're not working within the unified field, because when the relationship is balanced, like I've said, it flows like this. And when you desperately want something and you project it, you're like almost like you're penetrating, you want to poke it and you want to penetrate someone's sacred space. And this is when someone shows me about this recently. They've shared with me that if people are like this and they're acting this way and they're very obsessive, it's almost like they're going to try to penetrate your sacred space, almost like poking it so much that they would create a hole through which their energy could enter and they could feed off of it. But we need to learn our own self-mastery so that doesn't happen. And when this is so, this is clearly an invasion, very much an invasion of someone's sacred space. So if you're one of those people doing that to others, maybe, or doing, having the experience of someone doing this to you, then really watch this, because we have to be very careful in terms of our sovereign purity. We need to become as not just pure in terms of kind, graceful, but pure in terms of sovereign, being in integrity, being within the boundaries that is our sacred space, because we have to know that we're still unified within our uniqueness. And if there is a distortion coming, as a falsehood coming from the outside, you won't just say, oh yes, thank you, please bring it to me. You will be very protective over your sacredness that you have put so much of your dedicated effort into. You won't just allow people to poke through it. And this is what I'm talking about here. And all of my videos are dedicated to your ascension, which is your sovereignty, which is your mastery. It's no longer you playing the victim or allowing everything because you think you're a light worker and you have to allow everything and you have to be the giver. We're done with playing that, because in truth, I have to tell you this, when you think that you're responsible for someone else's love quotient and for someone else's ascending journey, you will fail each time, because you cannot come in between them and their ascension. That's between them, their soul, and their spirit. They have their own guidance. They have their own unique spiral of light. We're unique within that, within our ascension. And when we will do that, we'll create those entanglements and hooks. And we don't want that. This is not how you assist. You assist with claiming your own timeline, with your own sovereignty, and becoming a master of the self. Not masters of the old, which wanted to be masters of others. We don't play this. We don't play games like that. We don't do distortions. We don't do manipulations. We don't do strategies. We simply want to live as divine love incarnate, love embodied. So the work is not just for you, but in this case, it's for the two. So whoever that is, that you feel that dissonance, you feel that they're kind of like your inhibitor, someone you can't figure out, even someone you so badly believe is maybe your twin flame, but there's something like friction and there's dissonance and there's disharmony. Do the technique anyway, please, because it's really going to serve you. That's nothing you're doing here to, you're just invoking the prime creator, creatrix light of the white column that is so natural for us, because the white light already is all. And you're going to lift yourself and the other into, you're not coming in between. That's the difference, because you're not coming from those lower levels and meddling, and you're not getting intermingled with their process and what they want to, or desire to experience as a human, and where they are in their evolution of their humanness. But you work from this higher aspect, and you're seeing the things from the higher angles of that white creation light. So from your I am to their I am, that's the monadic presence of each sovereign here. And what you do is see the streaming forth, the Om, the streaming Om, the white spiral of creation and the source of all, permeating all life in creation in unison, the Alpha and the Omega. And you feel how that creates a unique, almost like it's like a pillar of white light. It's almost like if you would see a strong, I don't know what they're called, when we have the stage lights, you have the very light, a very bright light of the stage light coming through, and it creates your own stage for your own ascension. And you also see that for another. And when you do that, what happens is you move into that white pillar, you moved into unity. And that unity naturally creates this correspondence you see down here between the two of you that goes within the infinity light. And what you do then simultaneously, you also create that pillar of synthesis between both of you. Because your pillar, their pillar, they can connect. Everything is a web. And what they do, you see, another pillar is formed, the wider one, the outer pillar. What you do is now you want to correspond on them on the higher level. So imagine you as two humans enwrapped, encased with the golden infinity symbol. The energy dynamics is flowing and it's balanced. Even though they or you as a person might still have certain disharmony, certain versions playing out of that disharmony and the veils within the egoic perceptions and falsified illusions, still you see that energy dynamics as it's already real, that it's balanced and it's yin and yang, it's masculine feminine essences working together as one, from left to right, from bottom to top. It's like in spinning motion, even though as a person you would perceive that person is not yet fully heart-centered, fully open or unified. It doesn't matter, because now you're coming from the higher perspective of that already being true. So you both have an individualized three-folded flame. But that three-folded flame was placed within us for our eventual awakening when we will start our ascension journey. But that three-folded flame, eventually, when we start to ascend further and further upwards and are overlighting present, it starts to ignite in only the white pillar. So even that three-folded flame was a temporary, it's a period, the seed that we have within us, but it's unfolding in our next steps of the journey. So it's being permeated or washed over and completely dissolved into the white light of unity. That doesn't mean now you will disappear, or relationships will cease to exist on a human level. No, but we will move them to the next level where there can be more harmony, more joy, more resonance instead of that dissonance, more harmony instead of their disharmony, and balance instead of that imbalance, reciprocity instead of that codependency. We don't want codependency, we want reciprocity. If that is not possible within a certain relationships, do this work. You're the one who's doing it because you're the aware one, and you're not even doing it for them, you're doing it for you. And yet when you do it for you, you do it for the whole, because everything is unified. So don't let people tell you, your works of light and your awareness, so whatever you're doing with awareness, does not help. We don't help in an attached way, but by doing our inner work, we do help, because everything is unified. And there's this infinity dynamics playing out between the two people, but then it spreads out to more. And you see that creates a wider outer pillar and many, many, many more pillars growing into it. And as we will do that in aware couplings, that doesn't mean now when you do it and this person will change. They might not, but you're still doing it for as a template for you and for those who want to ascend further. But you're doing it to receive guidance and communication and conversation with that being on this higher level light, your higher self to their higher self. Because you will see the truth. Their higher self will tell you, will say that, I'm currently at this level. Like, for example, sometimes we have this in our dream work. A soul will come and they'll tell you, look, I'm at this level. Or the higher self will apologize to you for example, someone did that to me in the dreams. They apologized to me for manipulating me, but as a physical person, human, they weren't even aware they were manipulating me, a certain part of their dynamics and how they were relating to me. And maybe they even won't be aware of that part if they're not going to do their own inner work, become aware of the pattern they had. But it doesn't matter. On this higher level, because you do have that conversation, you see that that's still playing out in the physical reality, and you're going to be more discerning and more aware and awake. And your responses in terms of how you invest your energy and your love are going to change, because you're going to come from the perspective of truth, which is being real, not just being, everything is good, everything is always good. Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean now you get to play the victim. You get to play the savior. You get to play the all-loving being who loves but never receives that love in return, because you perceive that you're the one who has to love everybody until it hurts, right? So that's changing. And by us doing this work, that's going to change because it's going to evolve us to the next level. So please know that if you have those relationships that feel you can't kind of put them in place, you cannot solve, the energy still stays there. And a lot of people will say, oh, they don't go away because they're my twin flame. Why certain things don't want to go away is because you're not ready yet to see it from a brand new perspective. Once you will be, you will outgrow it. It will naturally dissolve. It's like poof, balloon bursts and a new energy platform is being offered to us, like a blank clean slate. But before that happens, you'll always have a affinity. You'll be drawn to that person, sometimes even magnetically. There'll be chemistry because you have a work of internal blossoming into that further awareness to do, and unveiling of those falsehood veils. So by doing that work, we're going to become our own sovereign. So that threefolded flame, each unit has a different state of that flame. For someone will be more balanced, for others not. So you'll be even maybe shown in your meditation where how the state of your threefolded flame is and how it is for them. And you will again see that from a perspective of truth, not what you only can see on the human level. That's what I'm sharing this with you. The human level, sometimes it's still not evolved enough to the degree for us to say it's fully, the white light is fully embodied. We're doing this work now. If it's not yet fully embodied, and for most people it's not. So we will evolve it. We will evolve this into it, into the white light, and becoming the new sovereigns. So that white column of light, that pillar, we will raise us and them into this pillar, and we'll enter a new level of our relationship. So either that which we perceived as obsession or something imbalanced will grow and evolve into something more truthful, into a new presence. That identity and entity we have been even evolving will dissolve. It will feel softer. We will feel less pressure and that like clogginess. Like sometimes I talked about this, that there's almost like this glass layer between you and another, and it feels cold and you can't reach them or they can't reach you because of that falsehood. So we do that and we start to communicate with them on that higher level. So we will be shown by the presence of their soul, not what we want to so desperately believe on a human level, which often will not be the case. So know that every relationship is meant to evolve us further, and there are mirrors for where we are at. Maybe the awareness that wants to come through our soul on our own path of ascension, because each of us is on our own timeline. I know a lot of people share ascension and truths and facts about ascension in terms of time, where we are linear in a linear sense of how they are in general sense. But that's hardly the case, because we're just on our own unique timeline of evolving, and it has to be nurtured. That truth has to be sacred and honored. So where we are, these relationships will reflect self-mastery for us, and things that are not yet for us true, or that are not just linear. And these relationships will show us, this is where we're still holding the linear perspective, but we're not meant to get certain things, because in a linear framework, a lot of times in the new age we said, oh, I want to get what this relationship is about, please show me and I'll have this insight, I will transcend it, I'll outgrow it. We're changing now. We're perceiving things as spiral, and this light, how it's coming, it's like spiraling through more and more as we're calling it, as we're evoking it, and we're imagining that white pillar. So we're not meant to only get it. We're meant to be transformed and completely mesmerized, completely entrained by this love, all permeating love. And we're meant to evolve, not just to get something and then move on in the linear selves, but to evolve as in spiraling spirit that we are, that is descending through our soul and coming into our physical form. So this will be further as a technique that's explained in my upcoming course, the multidimensional ascension. There's lots to be shared there, so be patient with me. Those of you interested, thank you for staying always updated with these updates. I try to do my best to incorporate as much, and a lot of you are asking me questions of what you want me to share. Please just understand there's only one me, lots to share, lots of you. I cannot always be online, replying to everybody. I need to dedicate myself to the work I'm meant to bring here, so please just try to understand that. Try to have it in your heart. And the thing is that Spirit will always share with me what needs to come through at the exact perfect time. So when we trust, things do happen in such a beautiful, miraculous way. And when I have that trust for myself, there's always people telling me, wow, your recent video, exactly what I was going through or experiencing or needed to receive as a confirmation. And this is why I trust Spirit, because it's always like this for me. And so thank you for staying present, for being a part of Ascension Pioneers. Know that for a lot of you who are doing this work as the first wave, it will be more challenging because you're going to have to be the one who gets this first. It's like the light bulb going off, but we have so much guidance. And our Ascension teams are always with us. But a lot of the times, just before a new expansion or a new stage of evolution, they will kind of move and withdraw back because we need to get it ourselves. Not to get it in a linear sense, but we need to step into that new stage of evolution and that chrysalis and then butterfly, whatever you can perceive that as a part of that evolution for you as you're becoming a deeper version of your true self, which is divine love. So thank you for sharing your feedback and experiences with me as well. For those of you supporting, donating, this is a lot of times and effort and planning and writing and sharing goes into these videos, editing as well, and sharing. So thank you so much. Stay updated with me on my social pages like Instagram. There's a free app. I forgot to mention this, but see the link below. There's a free app as well for those of you having iPhones. And I'll see you soon in the next video update. I'm wishing you a beautiful upcoming. We have a full moon in Virgo, which is going to be very beautifully magnifying this experience for us. So take your time. First and foremost, see the experience that is without as an internal blossoming of your next stage of evolution for you, always internally first. That's how you master divine love within yourself and all others and all around. So thank you so much again. With love, wisdom, and power. Yeah, the threefolded flame of this chair is slightly different colors, but anyway, I love you all so much. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Welcome into